Alright, hey everyone. So in this video, I just want to go back and take a look at the motto of the nation, "In God We Trust," which everyone should be very familiarized with. This gets stamped all over our money, and a lot of people kind of throw that in your face when people get religious talking with politics, and everyone just assumes that what God they're talking about, right? But who's to say who is correct? But that's not what I'm trying to get to. I wanted to go back and see like what year it was established, where'd it come from. So if anyone doesn't know this already, I mean, because I didn't know until I researched it a few weeks back, but you can take a guess on what year you think this motto came out and was established. I'll give you a second. But no, if you're at all familiar with Gematria and just everything that's been playing out, especially this past year, you'll realize how big of the number 56 is. So of course, this motto of our nation, "In God We Trust," comes out in 1956. It was signed into law by the president then, Dwight D. Eisenhower. So, and this saying actually was kind of rephrased a little bit, but taken from the Star Spangled Banner poem by Francis E. Scott, or is it Francis E. Scott? Francis Scott, you all know who I'm talking about. So, but I don't really want to dip into like where was it created. The year that it was signed into, establishment or into our world is very interesting to me, being 1956, and of course because Society of Jesus equals 56, along with Washington D.C. equals 56, and like again, this past year has been nothing but 56s. Coronavirus equals 56, but knowing that it was signed by Dwight D. Eisenhower, who has the nickname Ike. Ike also equals 56, so very fitting to see that, and just to see how influential he was on America. But also just pointing out the day that he died, March 28th of 1969, that had date numerology of 56. And this whole research on looking at the nation's motto made me look at him and a lot of interesting numbers in his death. I mean, I haven't really researched a whole lot of people in the past, which I definitely intend to, because I feel like it's just going to help wake up more and more people, we would hope, right? But so just staying on this 56 and like just seeing he's the one that established it, but he did this on July 30th, 1956. But I also want to talk about another number that stands out in this, because July 30th, 1956 had date numerology of 58. And this monument here is at the state capitol in Pennsylvania, which is Harrisburg. And so just taking that all together that we've talked about so far in this 58, "In God We Trust" in the most pure cipher equates to 58, just like Harrisburg, and then Eisenhower equals 58. And they also have other common numbers in the same cipher, but it's that 58 that definitely stands out, because Freemasonry had a lot to do with our establishment of America. Freemasonry equals 58. And then I have from many 1 equals 58, because the motto before "In God We Trust" was "E pluribus unum," and that translates to "from many 1." So I found that very interesting. It just fits right along with Freemasonry, a 3 out of 4 cipher match. And then even if you wanted to look at United States and Washington in the rule for S cipher, they equate to 58 as well. And then 58's, that we should all be very familiar with. I just always reference back to Zach's old blog, Free to Find Truth. A lot of information's still up there, although I guess a lot of it's been taken down too. But We the People 58, Freemasonry, Solomon's Temple, Secret Society 58, and then Facebook 58. And just think of how influential Facebook and over the masses, over the whole world. Facebook is linked everywhere. Jobs use them all over the place to advertise. I mean, so 58, huge number. And then, of course, Facebook would have it. And then, of course, Jerusalem equates to 58. So I just found that very interesting, that in God we trust equals 58, along with Eisenhower and his connections. And then taking a look at his death, this is what I wanted to get to. His birthday being October 14th, and he died at the age of 78. Dwight Eisenhower equals 78, just like the age that he died. And then the motto that we had before, in God we trust, e pluribus unum, equals 78, which I found interesting. But his birthday, October 14th, is the day that leaves 78 days left in the year. So already just seeing like all these connections, but there's more. Oh yeah, I wanted to point out that he had major influences on the United States space, world, the space missions. But so they actually made a coin of him too. I think I skipped right there a little bit, but they made a coin of him with his face on the front, and then just the regular eagle that you would usually see on the back, and it even has the old nation's motto on it, not the new motto. So that's where that tie-in with the 78 comes in. But what else stands out very recognizably whenever you know Gematria and already have all these 78s revealed is this was the Eisenhower dollar. So it was a dollar coin. It was minted from the years 1971 to 1978. I mean, what are the odds of all of that in him? So after the year 78, they pulled that coin, or they stopped making those coins. And so really interesting for that. And then knowing that he died at 78, his name equates to 78, his birthday has connections to 78, and of course huge Jesuit number, 78, and of course Scottish Rite equates to 78. So just found that all very interesting, just the more I looked into his death and kind of the influences he had and the connections that America did for him, putting him on a coin and taking him off in the year 78. So then another thing I wanted to point out is it should be the year that he died, of course, 1969, on March 28th, to his upcoming birthday, or what would have been his upcoming birthday. He died exactly 201 days before. And just because the moon mission happened in the year 1969, just like how he died in 69, and how they already just it's just wild how all these can happen and be perfectly aligned. But we know Apollo in the Jewish cipher equates to 201. And the first man to supposedly who stepped foot on the moon, Neil Alden Armstrong, equates to 201. And this should be another point that everyone needs to remember, because Zach repeats it all the time. And so this happened, the day that he supposedly stepped foot on the moon was on July 20th, 1969. And July 20th, of all days, happens to be the 201st day of the year. So perfect person to step foot on the moon, and then Apollo equating to 201. I mean, how is that even possible? And then, so I just threw in I just thought it was really interesting how, of course, Eisenhower dies 201 days before his birthday. And then another thing I wanted to point out just ties with the moon mission and him having been president. July 16th was actually the day that Apollo 11 launched, and it wasn't until a few days later they got to the moon and landed. But March 28th, the day that Eisenhower died, to the launch of Apollo 11 was 110 days after his death. And his full name, Dwight David Eisenhower, equates to 110, just like the word president, 110. So those were just some findings I had, just kind of just going and going, which I don't mind going back in history and dipping into more things, because it's all things I feel like we need to have knowledge about and understand, and it'll help us it could help us understand numbers better, just seeing them in certain patterns and such, just like Zach has done with finding out the murder numbers 38, 83, and the 56 and 201 and 78, and how influential it is with the Jesuits stamping it everywhere, and 144. I mean, so if anyone has any recommendations on what they would like to have, a decode on, I don't mind at all if we have a common interest and like something I personally want to look into too. Not some random stuff like that's not important, but I mean like something like this, because the term "In God We Trust" is very powerful and influential on our society, whether people realize it or not. It's because words have meaning, and translations and how we interpret things are also very powerful, because we all have different ways of thinking. But anyways, I'll leave it there. I just hope you guys found this all interesting. All right, see ya.